Live with CDP, a weekly sports and entertainment podcast live on YouTube, Facebook Live, Twitter, and on audio via Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Spotify, and Anchor FM. Now here's your host, Chris Palme.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Live with CDP Sports Talk, Season 5, Episode 12 today, brought to you by Barry Cullen Chevrolet, 905 Woodlawn Road West in the Guelph Auto Mall. Check out barrycullen.com for the newest selection of new and pre-owned GM vehicles, as well as giving them a call. 519-824-0210 and tell them that CDP, aka Chris Palme, sent you there as well. And also, guys, you can pre-order the Cadillac Lyriq or the pre-order the all-electric Silverado as well at Barry Cullen Chevrolet as well. Again, check out barrycullen.com for the newest selection of new and pre-owned GM vehicles. And want to say special thank you to Mark Cullen from Barry Cullen Dealership for sponsoring Live with CDP Sports Talk. And good afternoon, everybody, on this Wednesday, December 28th. I hope everybody had a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. And I'm just getting over being sick with a cold, and I ended up jamming my ankle the other night. I thought I sprained it, but I didn't. So I'm feeling a lot better today. And guys, I'm looking forward to my guest today. This is going to be his record-tying 6th appearance on my podcast show, and he's a friend of mine from Windsor, Ontario. He's also a public address announcer for the Windsor Lancers, and he's also the longtime voice of the Windsor Express, two-time NBL of Canada champion Windsor Express, Aaron Sanders.
Well,
good afternoon, Aaron. How are you doing?
Afternoon, Chris. You know, when you make an intro like that, you're going to make me nervous for the first time in my career, but I'm honored. Hope you had a terrific Christmas and the holidays. And yeah, I heard about your ankle. Let me tell you, man, elevate it and it'll be better in about a few days. Oh, by the way, you know who I talked to at work this morning? I talked to your good buddy, Mike K. Cook.
Oh, good. He's a good guy. One of the nice guys. He's been on my show twice.
Well, I told him that I was going to be on your podcast today, and he's like, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Mike's a really good guy. Hey, I don't live in Windsor, but I feel like I pretty well know who's who in Windsor now with doing this podcast show.
Well, think of it. You have Mike there, myself. You also had Steve Bell. By the way, Beller's celebrating a big day today for the Windsor Spitfires game. I'm sure we'll talk about that later. But this is where it's happening here in the Rose City. So you pretty much know most of the media personalities here. And then there's me. So How you make of that?
and this is going to be your, 11th year with the Windsor Express?
Actually, it's going to be, unofficially, it's going to be my 9th year with them. But this is going to be my, 5th, 6th, 7th season broadcasting with the Express. And I'll tell you, it's been a terrific journey. I've done 154 games, so the home opener will be 155, and I'm still the youngest broadcaster in the league as far as I'm concerned. So go figure.
That's also a very good sign as well. Hey, after our show today, if you're interested, I know a way of you can contact Chuck Swirsky. He's the longtime voice of the Bulls. He likes to help out aspiring broadcasters, do Zoom conferences with them or give them any advice and stuff like that. And Chuck is a really good guy, and he's really supportive of my work as well. And he will give you the shirt off his back. He's that type of person.
Well, I greatly appreciate it. I mean, Chuck's a legend here in Canada, too, because after calling all those years with the Toronto Raptors, and now he's with Chicago. So he's breaking out the salami and cheese for Chicago, but he will always have a place in people's hearts in the early days of the Raptors.
Well, hey, like you said, Aaron, even if I didn't know you, just hearing your work, you sound professional. You have the voice, and it's just a matter of time before you get into the NBA or ESPN or TSN.
Well, it's awfully nice of you, and I got to say cheers to that, because honestly, I feel like that I'm trying to improve each and every year, And I'm glad that the Express have been able to bring me back. And I'll tell you, there's this motto I always go by. It's like, I'm not there yet, but I'm not through either. So I feel like, with those 2 years of COVID, I
Yep.
felt like we're not going to have an opportunity like this again, but we were allowed to play basketball again. I was allowed to call basketball again, and hopefully come January 27th, I'm able to do a service for the fans, for the team, and for the league in general, because that's what it's all about. We tell the stories, but honestly, the players, they're the ones that make the stories, they make the storylines, and they're the ones that really make things unfold. We're just here to sit back and just talk about the game.
I was gonna say I got my coffee mug out too. I got my own mug made out. So when I get more made up in the new year, I'll have to send you one down to Windsor.
Send it over because I'm a fan of mugs. By the way, I want to give a shout out to a great friend of mine who was able to make this. Emily, if you're watching this, thank you for the mug. I haven't been able to let it go since.
Oh, that's all right. Hey, I guess speaking of that, what's your thoughts on the Windsor Express new logo? They updated their logo.
Well, they certainly surprised me and everybody else with that change, but think of it, it's their 10th season, right? So I feel like it was a perfect time to do that. I think it was time for a new era for the Express, and I think they said in the press release, it's a matter of looking forward. While reflecting on the past, we just look forward. So you have the logo of the bullet train that is infused is a basketball. It is very clean, very sharp. Love to see it on the jerseys and on the court when the season starts in a few weeks. And I feel like this is a sign of many great things to come for not only this season but for the future of the Express.
Now I gotta ask you. I can't remember if you told me this last time, Aaron. I had you on. Do the Express have a third jersey again, or do they just have two uniforms?
From my experience, they've had alternate jerseys over the years. Last year, they stuck with the home and away jersey. I call it home and away, not what the NBA is calling it lately with the icon and association. But I know they're going to end up with two jerseys. What is it going to look like? We're going to have to tune in and find out. But I wouldn't be surprised if they had an alternate jersey. Like my suggestion, do a throwback jersey from either their championship years or from a few years ago, because I remember they had a jersey design before COVID shut everything down in 2020, and it was the slickest and smoothest jerseys I have ever seen from them in the years that I've been with the Express. So you could bet on that, but they've always had some interesting designs over the years, and I have a feeling they're not going to disappoint the fans or the product itself.
What is the overall expectations for this year's team from the media and from the fans around Windsor about this 2023 Windsor Express team?
Well, I feel like at the moment, the players that they have signed right now, a handful of them are from last year. So it feels like they're going to try to finish what they started last year. There were a number of games a season ago where they would have the lead heading into the fourth quarter, but they were unable to play full 48 minutes, if you will. A case in point, their playoff series against London. To be honest with you, I felt like they could have won all of those games, and we could be talking about a potential sweep, and they would be playing against KW in the finals. But that wasn't the case. I mean, let's list the players that are back this year. Stuckman, Kobe Williams, Ja'Kai Taylor, who last I checked had a contract with the G League, Billy White, the league's former MVP and the league Hall of Famer too. And you also add from the Sudbury Five this year, Jason Calise, a three-point sniper. So you could rely on him. There's a bunch of players that you could rely on, but I feel like they want to go deep. They want to go back to the finals for the first time in 8 years. And I feel like they could do that because you never know. We haven't seen a lot of signings from all the other teams yet, but I feel like this is a very confident team, and this is a very productive team that's able to buy into the system and not say, well, you know what? We're going to go our separate ways for the new season. Handful of them coming back this season was a shocker, but I'm thrilled and I'm delighted that we have the likes of Billy White. We have the likes of Nick Garth and Ja'Kai Taylor and Tanner Stuckman back, which, if you remember, we had him on the post-game show over on NBLC TV. And I think you said he reminds you a little bit of Bill Lambier. So
Yep.
I don't know if that's the reason he came back. Like maybe he got that target in his back and knowing he's like, we're going to go right back at it. But, it's good that they have like a 4 or a 5-man like Tanner Stuckman back then because they need that aggression and intensity for that team this year.
Yeah, he's now following me on Instagram, and unfortunately, I invited him to come on. He would have come on, but I guess he's traveling back to Windsor. I think he's from the States. I'm not sure where he's from, but I know he's coming back to Windsor this week as well. Now, when does training camp officially start for the Windsor Express, especially?
Well, I've heard that it's set to start in a couple of weeks, but I don't have the official dates yet. I'm sure they're going to be released in the next few days. Hopefully that is the case because I would love to see these guys in action and see Coach Bill Jones work his magic. Because I'm telling you, he's one of the greatest coaches of all time in the NBLC, and I bet you he's ready to go to see who's going to make the cut and who's going to be left out this season. But just because they're left out from training camp, Chris, doesn't mean they're not going to make the team down the road because you never know what's going to happen. That's the beauty about the world of sports.
Obviously, Bill Jones is back as head coach. Any changes with the assistant coaches?
Not that I know of at the moment, because once again, it's a matter of we're going to have to see and find out. But I firmly believe he's going to stay with what he has in his coaching arsenal right now. I believe there's been a couple of not a couple of players, a couple of people from last season's coaching squad that they're young, they're ready to go, and they feel like they're going to have a chance, in the coaching helm, either in college or university or even in the NBA in the few years to come. So I feel like it's going to be like the players that re-signed for this year. They want to get the job done and they want to overcome all the adversities that they have faced last season and the season before that. So I think they're going to be all in.
Now, during the season last year, obviously you saw the team. The last month of the season, you felt this team was playing better basketball. Then do you like the direction where the Express were headed towards?
Oh yes, because they were able to pick up a handful of wins in the last few weeks. I remember one game they played against another TBL team, the Jamestown Jackals, and I firmly believe that was the game where they were going into the right direction. If you exclude their postseason play, I think they won either 4 of their last 5 games or 3 of their last 4 games. And mind you, a handful of those games were at home. So not only you have the home court advantage, you got the fans on your side, and they were able to pick up the energy right down to the final play. We had a couple of close ones, but they were able to get the job done. And I think they worried London a little bit near the end of the season anyway, because a lot of people felt like even though the Windsor Express did not have the best record at the time, that they wouldn't amount to much. But keep in mind, those margin of victories in the postseason, we're talking about either 1, 2 points, or even 4 points. They even took the Lightning into overtime. So if that doesn't tell you that was a different team than how they started last season, then somebody's been watching the wrong channel.
And also the NBL finals, everyone's like, London swept Kitchener, but Kitchener for 2.5 games played right up with London, and they could have easily won that finals. They were without 4 starters, and Neil Foreman. I won't get into why he's not with the Titans this year, obviously, at the moment, but I thought Neil Foreman did a great job last year with that Titans team, and I liked the coaching job he did in the finals. They could have used the excuse, 4 starters are out, we're playing London, we have no chance. And for 2.5 out of those 3 games, they played rep beside London for the most part.
And you never use injuries as an excuse if you're going out to play. And I felt like the way the Titans' route in the finals was pretty identical to the Express. Because remember, out of those 2 games, one of them went to overtime. And the last game that decided it all, it was just decided by a point or two. So the Titans could have extended it to a game 4, but it wasn't meant to be. And hats off to the Lightning as they try to look to go back to back for, I want to say, the third time, because they won it in 12 and 13. They won it in 17 and 18. They won it last year. So it sounds like there's a pattern going on, but who will try to break that pattern? We'll have to find out starting in January.
And you know what? They are similar to the London Knights. I'm going to say this. I hope the London Lightning fans don't get mad, but they're kind of considered the villain of the National Basketball League of Canada. But that is good for a league where you have a team that's considered sort of like the villain, because London is a quality organization and they're committed to winning, and they'll do whatever it takes to win. And I think for the league, it's great to have teams like that. Windsor's been pretty successful. Hopefully, Kitchener, Waterloo can continue, and Sudbury. If the Sudbury Wolves can be more competitive as well, it'll make the league stronger in the long term.
Well, that's right. And when it comes to the NBLC, a lot of people think of that 401 rivalry with the Lightning and the Express. In the OHL, you got the Knights and the Spits. In the OUA, you have the Lancers and the Mustangs, Saints and Falcons, and the OCAA. No matter where you go, if you're in Ontario, you're always going to get that 401 rivalry. And I think the rivalry was able to reignite once the COVID restrictions were able to go away a little bit and allow the league to go back into action. But those last few games with the Express and the Lightning really showcased the true reason why people love watching this game in the local areas is because number one, it's intense. Number two, if you're a fan, you're thinking this is fun because the games can't get any closer than what they were. And number three, this is a big moment for these players, and they can make a name of themselves in those kind of moments. So, like I said, check out London and Windsor when it comes to their rivalries, and I'm sure there's going to be much more rivalries in the league, like Sudbury of London or KW in London. That goes without saying.
And hopefully we can talk about further future expansion in the next couple years as well. Hopefully.
Mhm.
Now, Aaron, I got to ask you, just quick thoughts on this 2023 NBL season, and thoughts on the defending champions. We got to go with them first, the London Lightning.
Well, I feel like with Coach Doug Plum back at the helm of the ship, the Lightning know that they have a target on their back. Once again, as defending champions, it is their duty to defend the championship and do it all over again. I feel like with the players that are going to be signed with the Lightning, they know what has to be done. They know what's going to happen. And under Doug Plum's leadership, it's going to be a game of speed and it's going to be a game of runs when it comes to the Lightning. Because remember, last year, strong players like Cameron Forte, MVP Terry Thomas. I don't think the people will doubt that they will return because you have to finish what you started. And for what people call him, Scary Terry or Cameron Forte, you know it's going to be their forte to do what's best and take down anybody that is in the league. Now, as far as the upcoming season is concerned, I feel like this is going to be a comeback season for everybody. Because remember, at the start of the season, we still had the restrictions due to the pandemic, but I feel like we're going to be in a way back to normal this year. So we have eager teams, and I'm sure the fans are going to love the action. And I do believe media day is happening for the Sudbury Five as well today. They already have a couple of signings, and by the way, they were able to get back the coach that was able to help jumpstart the Sudbury franchise. I'm sure if you want to talk about that, and he was a former NBL player and MVP in his first year too. So it's going to be interesting because there's been a lot of turnaround with all the teams in this offseason.
Are the Lightning still the team to beat this year in 2023?
I believe they are because with their speed and with their runs and with very brute force right in the front court, they're going to be the team to intimidate everybody else. But I don't think any team's going to be intimidated by them. They're going to go right at them. And in the years past, I've always known the Lightning as a team very tough when it comes to the front court. They choose their shots wisely. And that's something you got to do in the game of basketball. Choose shots wisely. Don't chuck them up like you're shooting three balls like Steph Curry or anything. They're going to be the team to beat, and they're going to be the team that's looking to defend their championship as they look to go back to back for an unprecedented third time.
Is there a team that you think could surprise some people? Obviously, the Titans got to the finals last year. Windsor is going to be improved. The Sudbury Five. Do you feel Sudbury could be very competitive this year?
I knew right from the get-go When Sudbury was granted an NBL Canada franchise in 2016-17, that they were going to be the team to watch. When they played their first season in 18-19, they shocked a lot of fans and they shocked the whole league because they were able to keep games close. They were able to get great players who have that caliber in the NBLC to rise up and help make this team create its identity. Like, for example, the last few years, they had Braylon Rayson, Jalen Bland, a dynamic duo in the backcourt. They're going to shock a lot of people this year too. And with Coach Logan Stutz right back at the helm, he has what it takes to lead this team either to the championship or go to the limit in the first round. There's only 4 teams in the NBLC this year, but I feel like it's going to be a close game each and every time, especially in the playoffs.
Gonna ask you this too, Aaron. I want to confirm with you as well. Is older games this year against the TBL teams going to count for the American teams as well as the Canadian-based teams?
I feel like it's going to count for the NBLC, but for the TBL, I don't think so. I wasn't able to check most of the stuff on the TBL side outside of the teams that are going to be playing against the NBLC, but I feel like it's going to be like it was last season, the way the wins count for the NBLC teams against the TBL teams. It's going to be interesting, and the partnership is still going strong. I believe a 10-year deal was made during the off season, so you expect a whole lot more action. And who knows, maybe we'll see some TBL players playing with NBLC teams down the stretch because it also happened last year too.
One possibility too, Aaron, I wanted to ask you about this. Is it possible the leagues one day could just have one league instead of two leagues, or do you really feel long term it's important to keep the National Basketball League of Canada as their own separate entity?
Well, I think you got to keep it as a separate entity because, I mean, we're the National Basketball League of Canada. We're trying to make these players rise here in Canada, and the Canadian-born talent here, they're looking to make a name of themselves too. And I feel like as the years go on, we're still going to have that partnership with the TBL, but also like the TBL, we're going to expand and try to find a way to get the entire nation involved, whether it could be in Northern Ontario or Eastern Ontario or right here in Southwestern Ontario. So, as far as I'm concerned, I believe the NBLC is going to stay as an entity as it is right now because we have a whole lot of room for Canadian players, for the talent, and for the entertainment as well.
And there are markets. We brought this up before. I think Guelph, Hamilton, Kingston, Peterborough as well. So hopefully, in the next couple of years, the NBL of Canada will be able to expand. You just don't want to do it too soon, too fast, and not have it worked out. It's better to take your time and be thorough than to rush into it because it's not good for. We mentioned this before, Aaron. It's not a good look for the league when you see teams folding or relocating on a yearly basis.
And remember too, it's going to take some time, and not only for us, but for anybody, whether if it's a business or a small business, to regroup after the pandemic, because it goes without saying, it has taken a lot out of businesses. It has taken a lot out of sports too. So I feel like after this year, you may have to wait a year or two to think about going 3 steps ahead of your idea because you have to find some way to process what has happened and heal from it. But here's the thing: when it comes to this league, a lot of people were surprised that we were able to come back for 2022. We love to shock people, we love to entertain people, and the fact that we're back and we're talking about this league now, it goes to show that this league survived and it's going to thrive off of everything else, especially the positive things in the years to come.
Are they still going to have the championship this year between the NBL Canada champion and the TBL? I think they're going to call it the North American Cup or something.
That's a good question, and I haven't seen anything in regards to that yet. But it would be interesting because we've seen it happen with other basketball leagues around the world before, especially with the Winter Showcase in the G League. I think the WNBA also does the Commissioner Cup in the middle of the year as well, but I believe that was in the agreement when they were able to sign it up in the past summer. So I don't know if it's going to happen this season. We may have to get an official word on that before the season starts.
That's why I was hoping Audley was going to be able to come on today, but I understand with his schedule and with the league starting up, he's probably dealing with a lot of phone calls and stuff like that. So,
Hmm.
yeah, I guess I'll have to save these questions for when Audley can come on again in the future as well.
Well, maybe it could be an inside scoop or, the breaking news, and you may be able to break it if we're able to get the okay from that. So we're looking forward to it. Just a few more weeks to go to the season.
That's true. Are there any teams from TBL that you're looking forward to coming to Ontario this year?
I would love to see how the Pharaohs play once again, because remember, with the relocation situation that they had to deal with, they can't play in the TBL this season. They'll be back next season. There's no doubt about that, because it's always good to see familiar faces. Again, Scott Newman, the former assistant coach for the Express. This was a guy that was part of the 2 championship teams. I love to see how his team goes up against the NBLC teams, because I think he has a whole lot of knowledge of the NBLC with his history, and those players know what they're going to get themselves into. Number 2, I think Toledo Glass City is going to be playing against our teams as well. We're going to be playing against the Kalamazoo Galaxy, and of course, the return of a team in Newfoundland. I would love to see the Rogues play against an NBLC team, so that way people are saying, that's the Newfoundland basketball we've missed over the last few years. I mean, be grateful that we're able to get that opportunity. But I know the Express are going to get the Rogues at home sometime in February, I think. It's going to be one of their first home games, too. So Newfoundland, Glass City, and the Oakland County Pharaohs. Looking
Yeah,
towards to that.
yeah, I know the Toledo team well with their head coach Freddie Zomoya and Chris Darrington, who was the MVP last year in the All Star game. He's coming back to Toledo, and Miles Copeland, who is a part time firefighter in Toledo, and he actually saved a referee's life on the
Mm.
court that had a heart attack. So I'm hoping, I'm not sure, I'm assuming he's coming back. But Toledo is a very solid basketball team, and I'm going to have to try to come up to a game in Windsor in London this year as well as Kitchener.
Well, let's go back to the whole situation where the referee unfortunately had the heart attack, but someone was able to revive him. That, you know what, it was spread all over America about that. And when I saw that, I said, you know what, human nature is able to showcase the finer things in life. Is like life is more important, and he saw that, and his instincts sprung right on. And when I saw that story, I was very impressed and very happy for 2 reasons. Number 1, someone was able to get there right on the dot, and number 2, the referee is good and well as
Yeah.
far as I'm concerned. So, like I said, I said this a long time ago to somebody. Basketball is not only a sport, it's also a brotherhood, a sisterhood, and it teaches you about the finer things in life. You got to value those things. You got to value your life, because out of all the things that we have bought in our life, Chris, you have to count the things that money can't buy. That's the most valuable thing.
Yeah, and it's not just being a talented basketball player, it's being a good person. And I said this to one of the guys last year too. I think Freddie Zomaya is a head coach. What do you look for as a coach when you're recruiting players? Obviously, you want guys that are talented, but character. We
Mhm.
want good people on our teams as well. You could have the most talented guy, but they could be the biggest jerk or non-team player. And to me, his character is one of the biggest building blocks for a championship team is as well having good character.
Keep in mind too, you're an ambassador for not only the team but for the
The
city
city,
as well, and that comes with being a professional player. I think that comes with any other sport or team. It doesn't matter what rank you're in. You could be a high school player and you're still the ambassador of the school. College or a university student, you're still ambassador of the school and the future of the city. But when you're a pro, that onus is on you to not only be the ambassador of the team, the ambassador of the league, ambassador to the city as well. So you got that responsibility, and these players knew what they were getting themselves into once they were able to sign their name on the dotted line. So the onus is huge, but it pays off in the end.
Absolutely. Now, I wanted to ask you about the Titans' new ownership. Obviously, real estate husband and wife, David Scully and Kate, now going to own 50% of the Titans. And I believe the city and the community is going to own the other 50% as well.
I never heard of an idea like that before, but it's a pretty cool idea. First off, congratulations to the Schooley family for buying the KW Titans. They have a whole lot of interest into it, and I think the moment they stepped foot into the auditorium to watch their first Titans game, they knew something good was going to come with that. And on top of that, too, they have a long-term plan. They're not going anywhere soon, but I feel like Leon Martin and the rest of the former owners did a terrific job in handing over the ownership to the Schoolies, because at the end of the day, I feel like they're going to do a whole lot of things with this organization in the years to come. And let's face it, any team that's made the finals is going to bring up a lot of potential and a lot of interest to anybody watching around in their neighborhood. So hats off to them. And I think they've done a great job at the moment, because I think there are two people that have been lifelong Titans fans since day one, Chris, that are ambassadors for the team as well. I forgot the names of them, but I'm sure it'll spring up right before the end of the episode today.
And that those two ladies, I
Yep,
know they
those
just,
two ladies.
those two ladies, Diane, and I'm trying to think of the other one. I
Lisa,
know
Diane and Lisa.
Lisa, yes, and they were involved with the CABL's Wolf Nighthawks here for a while as well. But I was so happy to see they're going to be ambassadors for the Titans, and they were at a lot of Titans games. And I'm going to say this, Aaron, I've only been to one Titans game. Obviously, it was the final game against London last year, but I think there is a market for basketball in the Kitchener Waterloo area. And right now, without Guelph having a team, they've got Kitchener, Waterloo, Cambridge, and Guelph. That's almost 800,000 people there in those four cities to draw from for the Titans.
And the Schooley family is going to make sure that everyone knows about the KW Titans basketball team. It's going to be a process, but they knew what they were getting themselves into, and I feel nothing but good vibes and a lot of good things happening for them. And again, congratulations to Diane and Lisa
Lisa.
for being on board for that too. So the Titans, they may be the runners up from last year's finals, but there's going to be no doubt in my mind that they're going to pick up where they started as well, and they're going to be coming back with a vengeance.
What are your thoughts on the Titans' new head coach? And do you see Neil Foreman coming back to this league at some point as a coach or assistant coach as well?
Well, I'm going to answer the first question first. Let me tell you something about Clifford Clinkscales. As a longtime ambassador to the NBLC and a terrific player when he played for the Halifax Rainmen and then Hurricanes, this is somebody that pretty much fills in that whole definition of general. He is a floor general, and now he's a general on the sidelines. And I feel like he's going to do a good job with that, because I feel like anybody, if you want to be a good coach, it could be rugby, soccer, baseball, or football. You got to have experience in playing the game. He's the guy to do it. And I feel like he's going to do a good job with it. I mean, he's one of the most humble guys you ever meet. I had a conversation with him during All-Star Weekend earlier this year, and it's nothing but humble and gratitude when it comes to Clinkscales. And I think he's going to do good. As far as Neil Foreman is concerned, let's face it, he did a hell of a job coaching the Titans last season and in the seasons before that as an assistant coach for the Express. I would not count him out of the NBL just yet. I feel like he's going to make a comeback, because look how the dynamic of the coaching is for the NBLC. Chris, keep in mind, Doug Plum was a former player. Okay, he played in the University of British Columbia, and he has the basketball IQ. Bill Jones, former NBA player, played with Michael Jordan, and that is an honor anybody would love to have. Right? And for Sudbury, you have Logan Stutz, who has played the game, played in this league, and has collected accolades in this league as well. Now you add Cliff Clinkscales to the fold. All these coaches have been former players, And I like how the direction is going as far as coaching and the players are concerned. Somebody that is comfortable with the game, and they're going to accelerate with this big role. Clink skills, he's going to fit in well with KW. Foreman, Neil Foreman, he'll be back in the NBLC. I feel it in my gut, and you know what? I have nothing but good vibes, and he's all around great guy. We were talking about two great guys here, Chris. It's just phenomenal.
Yeah, because I was just getting to know him as a media member, and he was really good with my podcast and doing a live interview with me after the game last year. He gave me time after, and it's a business too. I realize that too. It's a business and stuff like that as well. So I'm just hoping at some point he'll be back within the game of basketball. Hopefully with the NBA of Canada at some point in the future as well.
Well, with the professionalism that he has displayed, not only for you but in league wide, the door is going to stay open for as long as we're talking about the league and the game itself. So, again, there's going to be no doubt in my mind when it comes to him returning. Like, give it time. We have to be patient about
Yeah.
this, and I'm sure Neil is very patient with this. I mean, he loves the game, and it's like what Joel Embiid would often say: trust the process.
And he had such a tremendous year. Hey, I was gonna, Aaron. One thing I wanted to ask you: who are some other players this year to look out for across this league? Is there guys that kind of stepped up last year, but you see them developing into star players this year across the league?
Well, I feel like Jakai Taylor can be that guy if we see him in an express uniform this year to step it up, because I think he did a tremendous job filling in and stepping up to be in a starter's role. Because if you remember earlier last season, we had a guard named Lance Tejada, and he went down with a scary back injury in early April. And I felt like it was Jakai's time to shine, and he did that. Billy White, as a former MVP, he has that responsibility of maintaining the legacy that he has made for himself. I mean, this is a West Coast player from Las Vegas, mind you. So, he's going to be doing it big in the NBLC this year, and he's going to try to finish what he started. And keep in mind, here's an interesting fact, Chris. Before last season, Billy White made the finals in all the years that he has played in the NBLC. In his first year with the Halifax Hurricanes in 2016, he made the playoffs and was able to win the championship. 17 and 18, he lost with the Hurricanes to the Lightning. 2019, won it with the Moncton Magic over the St. John's Edge. And then here we are in 2022, the only year he wasn't able to go to the championship run. So he's going to be back with a vengeance. For Sudbury, I feel like if they re-sign Braylon Rayson, he's going to be lights out from three-point land. Now, they signed a couple of players, and here's a guy to put on notice. Dwayne Notice, as a matter of fact. They signed him up about a couple of weeks ago, and if you recall, he was signed up to, I think, the Honey Badgers in the CEBL when they were playing in the bubble, and he had an awful lower body injury, and he's been making a comeback ever since. I want to see him make waves here in the NBLC. As far as the Titans are concerned, we'll just have to wait and see who they pick up during training camp and when the roster is finalized. And I wouldn't doubt that Terry Thomas would return to the London Lightning. I think he's going to come back, and I expect big things from Cameron Forte if we see him in the NBLC again. So those are my players that I would look out for. Oh, and Tanner Stuckman, too. If he has that Bill Laimbeer mentality, I think he's going to be the most improved player in the NBLC in 2023.
I think he needs to change his number to 40. 40.
Well, that's going to give him more pressure. He wants to live up to the Bill Laimbeer, name and character, right? But he's a terrific player. I'm telling you, folks, if you haven't watched Tanner Stuckman play, watch his highlights over the next few weeks and watch him play with the Express this year. He's a guy that will get on the floor and fight for those rebounds. Just an awesome player.
Now, what are your thoughts about the schedule? Obviously, I think each team's going to play a certain number of games. I know Kitchener's going to play less, but what are your thoughts on that? How they're doing it with the scheduling?
It's interesting considering what the Titans had to go through over the last few months or so. But I feel like as long as they're still playing, that's what's important. We could talk about the unbalancing of the schedule. We could talk about how one team has more home games in a way, or they have to be on the road more than at home. But I just go with the plain and simple fact that they're playing. We're watching them. We're calling it as we're seeing it, right? So as long as there is a schedule, we're all watching it, and we all hope that two teams go into a deep run and gives us some great entertainment in the finals at the end of the day. I mean, that's just my opinion. I mean, we love basketball over here, and we love to see it play. I mean, it's different from what we've been accustomed to because of last year with the COVID schedule and the year before that when the league had to shut down. But we're getting up there. We're improving, and I feel like next year we're going to have a bigger schedule, and hopefully we'll look at the pandemic in the rearview mirror. Because, like I said a few moments ago, it's going to take a while until this league and all the other leagues are able to go back to normal without, you know, the botherings of either a pandemic or something else, heaven forbid.
My only concern is the Titans. They're going to start up February 20th and the
Yes.
26th at December 5. Is the league going to let the Titans play some kind of exhibition game, one or two exhibition games before they jump into the regular season on February 20th?
It would be nice, but there's no official word for that because I know that's been the big concern for the followers of the Titans and the fans too. The fact that they're not going to be playing in their own home court for that long. I feel like if I'm remembering the schedule correctly, they're going to be playing about 2 or 3 home games right after the season starts. We could double check the schedule too on this. But I know it's going to be strange for the Titans and for the fans. But let's keep in mind this kind of stuff happens when you get a new ownership and you want to do things the right way. It may take a little bit of time, but you want to make sure that you're able to check your things twice, even triple check. I mean, this is why it's happening, but I think they're going to be okay because they're professionals. They'll think of things on the fly or they'll think of things 3 steps ahead of everybody else. But the Titans will be fine. There's no doubt in my mind.
Their home opener is Wednesday, March 1st against the Windsor Express as well.
Well, isn't that fantastic? Because I know the Titans, they were able to keep the Windsor Express, with close games last year, and I wouldn't be surprised if they're able to do that again. But yes, I'm looking at the schedule, and I keep on forgetting. Yes, the Titans don't even play until February 20th in their home game on March the 1st. So that'll give them enough time to finalize their rosters and make sure everything is all set to go. It's the patience game. It's the waiting game. But the Schoolies will be okay.
Speaking of rosters, what is it? 12 guys on a roster then?
12 guys on a roster as far as I'm concerned, with the majority of the roster being Canadian.
Majority, okay. How many imports they think can you have on a team each roster?
It's been a long time since I've been asked that question, but I would assume about 4 or 5 import players. But again, don't quote me on that.
And practice squad, are they allowed teams allowed to have guys on the practice squad?
I think so, because I feel like it's just like walk-ons. For
Yeah.
example, you show that hard work and commitment to the team. There's going to be a day where you're going to be called up, and not just to sit on the bench the entire game, but actually play. And we've seen this happen a number of times too. And this is what happens when hard work pays off. So there's no doubt in my mind we have practice teams because you practice to win. The players want to win and they want to go on the court. And that's the only way for them to win.
One last thing I wanted to ask you, Aaron. We talked about this last time, and
Mhm.
again, I might have to save this for Oddly as well. Is there any possibility they could take the simulcasts, make them into simulcasts with the radio? Obviously, they do a great job with MBL Canada TV, but also try to get some of the games simulcast on those cities' radio stations as well.
That would be one of the big dreams for me to call these games on radio. I'm telling you, it is doable. but you also have to take in consideration with most of the cities they are at, they have to keep in mind for most radio stations, the priority could be OHL teams. For Windsor's case, it would be a dream to have a handful of those games either on AM 800 or over on their sister station, either 580 or 93.9 Virgin Radio or any other radio stations. I mean, I think that would be an awesome goal because here's the thing. I feel like most radio and TV stations in the NBLC areas, they cover the teams. Why not go 100% and try to cover them either like they did with local TV over the last few years or do what you just mentioned, radio? There's a big possibility for that, and I think it would help the exposure of the league too. Because here's my idea. If you put some of the games on radio, I think it would tell people, hey, I got to do one. I got to do one of two things. Either I got to go out to these games or I got to go to NBLC TV to see what I've been missing. And I think radio would help springboard most of the newer viewers to the game, and it could help the NBLC in the long run. Never say never, though.
Yeah, and marketing the sport as well, letting
Mm-hmm.
people know, hey, we're still here. This is what we're about, and marketing some of the star players and the coaches as well.
Absolutely. And if they have interviews on the radio, that's just another good reason as to why the league and the local teams need exposure. That's just good exposure. As a matter of fact, a few weeks ago, AM 800 had their annual Cans for a Cause, and the CEO of the Windsor Express, Dardis Willis, was there for an interview. And most of the players, if I recall correctly, were able to help out in the fundraiser too. That's good exposure for both the station and the team. So that's a good step right there.
Absolutely, and I was gonna say one last thing before I let you wrap this up, or before I let you go, we wrap this up. Just tell my audience again here in Guelph, in the Guelph area, which isn't far from Kitchener and only an hour from London. And even if you wanted to go to Windsor, it's only about a 3 hour drive. Why they should follow the National Basketball League of Canada and why they should attend a game this year, and where they can get hooked up to NBL of Canada TV on the internet.
Well, 4 words: to watch us rise. It may be the slogan for the league this year, but it's true. We're coming back from a COVID laden season. There's a lot of improvements, especially with the players. The energy it's able to showcase. And I'm telling you, these games are going to be big games for those tuning in for the first time because maybe they've never seen a basketball game in their area. Maybe they've never seen a pro team in their area before. But I feel like this is a league that's able to echo the great sentiment and the great players that they were able to have in their league. Because remember, a handful of these players, they have either played in the NBA G League and the NBA in general. So this is a good springboard for them. And plus, it's good entertainment for the price of it and for the atmosphere of it. That's why I keep on coming here each and every year. You have a pro team in Windsor. You want to fulfill your dreams, you go at it. But for the fans, if you're in the Guelph area, come down to Kitchener, support this team because I feel like they're entering a new era with what the schoolies and the other representatives are doing. It's a good idea. It's been a great idea. And for 11 years, NBLC has been able to provide that entertainment, and they've been able to bring fans back, whether if the team stays in the city or if it's NBLC TV or any other kind of exposure. And take it from Chris, too, as a media affiliate for the league. I don't think he could provide his own testimony, I'm sure, at any time, but just listen to the fans, watch the players, and just see the action. Just attend a game this season. In about a few weeks from now, you're going to be asking for those season tickets.
And one word I want to use for the league is it's competitive. Every game is pretty well comes down to the last shot or last second. It's very competitive basketball.
Well, in the finals too, it was pretty much indicative of that. Because remember, game one was close, game two went to overtime, game three, it came down to literally the final basket for the championship. I mean, what better thriller or suspense that you could get than here in the NBLC? It's been going strong for 11 years, and with the partnership with the TBL, it's going to go beyond another 11 years, and it's going to expand, it's going to grow, and most importantly, it's going to rise.
And one thing I liked about the NBL of Canada's TV last year is also I was able to watch games from the TBL as well.
Mhm.
So it gives you access not just to the National Basketball League of Canada, but access to games against the Basketball League franchises as well.
And that all comes with the partnership. I was able to watch a handful of games, like for example, when the Express played in Lansing, played against the Pharaohs, and I was impressed at the competition. And there are a number of other broadcasts too that I've been impressed with the TBL. Again, the All Star Weekend, I'll tell you, very impressed at how they were able to sort things out, how they were able to broadcast it too. Because remember, the TBL is like the NBL too. You have a lot of up and coming players, and they're going to springboard into a lot of things into their future, whether if it's international play or into the NBA. So, and keep in mind too, the TBL's president used to be a part of the NBLC as a coach and then as a commissioner. So I feel like the TBL knew that the NBLC is a reliable league, is a trustworthy league, and it's a league to, do business with. And that's why we have this partnership. It's amazing. And again, you can watch both leagues on NBLC TV and TBL TV as well to see, well, if I never heard of the Windsor Express or the London Lightning before, I'm definitely not going to be saying that again after I watch my TBL team play against an NBLC team because they're just terrific.
And I think, what is the cost of it for a fan? I think what, $39.95, $40 for the whole season.
Exactly. I don't know why they didn't pick you to do the voiceover for the promo because I'll tell you, I should have remembered that right away. But yes, $39.99 for the whole season, $5.99 for the single game pass, and if you're able to purchase your pass before, I think, what is it, Friday, you would be able to get $5 off. And I should know this because I did the voiceover for the promo. You see, we should have tag team on that promo, Chris.
You got a better voice than me. I'm still learning to get used to my voice on here.
Me too, man. I'm like I said, I'm only 27 years old, but I feel like with my voice sometimes it's like I'm surprised that I have this voice. I mean, I got the know-how and I got the passion, but it's like sometimes I play back my voice. I'm like, wow, did I actually do that? It's like it's amazing. Our voices is a precious instrument. And I feel like somebody has said that to you as they said that to me over the years. It's like we have to be very careful with this because our voices could lead us to great things. And that's why we're here today. Isn't that terrific?
Well, like I said, you have a professional sounding voice and a very smooth one, and it shows in your work, by the way.
Thank you. I pinned that all to practice and the people that has been able to support me since day one, from my family to my friends to my peers to my connections. Honestly, they're the reason why I'm here. Honestly, I feel like I'm doing them a service, even though I'm the one either getting all the opportunities and whatnot. But they're the ones that open up their voices to let me know you could do this, you could do anything you want. And every time I go up to the WFCU Center, I feel like I do it for three reasons. Number one, I do that for my mom because, hey, she was the one that brought me into this world. She was the one that had faith into me, and she still does to this day. And I also do it for my friends and family. They were able to get me along the way. So none of this would be possible without them. And I figure I say that.
Last question, Aaron. What was it like being named back as the Windsor Express online play-by-play announcer? And do you know who your color analyst would be? And was it somebody from the team that contacted you about coming back as the voice?
Well, I feel like, and I was worried a little bit because you never know what could happen, but they pretty much said yes, you're coming back this year. There's no doubt. I'm like, thank you. Well, my prayers have been answered. It's like if there was one Christmas gift I wanted was to be back for the Windsor Express. And I'm going to do my best and try to do my best to call the game the way I see it and in a way to be entertaining for the fans. It's an honor and a privilege, as a matter of fact. My color analyst will be the same as last year, Drake Demore. He had his first year in 2022, and he has grown more comfortable with the basketball scene and has known a whole lot more in the NBLC since his first game back in, I want to say, February of this year. And a lot of people, oh, by the way, Drake Demore would be a good guy to get on here, too. He also does a podcast in Windsor called Win City Sports. I figure I plug that in if I'm allowed to.
Yes, yes.
A terrific guy, and he knows his wrestling. I'll tell you one thing. There was a friend that pretty much replied to one of his videos, one of his demo reels for the games, and his friend pretty much named us the Michael Cole and Taz of the NBLC. So every now and then we put some wrestling references into our broadcast to make things more interesting, but he's a terrific guy. He's very happy and looking forward to the new season. It's like I can't say enough about this guy because he could help me out whenever and is able to bring some laughter to not only myself but to the fans as well. So you're gonna like this guy, or in the words of that old commercial, the Men's Warehouse, I guarantee it.
Is there any chance in the future, I'm not sure about this year, that you guys or the other teams could get a sideline reporter as well?
That's one of the plans I have for the broadcast this year. We'll wait and see how things work out and get ironed out, because I know I wanted a sideline reporter last season, but due to COVID, we scrapped that idea for obvious reasons. We've had sideline reporters in broadcasts past, but I would love to venture into that again because there's nothing better than having three people in the broadcasting crew just telling it like it is. And plus, we're up here while the sideline reporter is down there. It gives us a better view and a better look at things as well. So it'd be nice. I think there's only one team that does sideline reporting, and they did that last year for the Sudbury Five. Shout outs to Noah Vout. He did a tremendous job on the multimedia side. Hopefully he's able to come back this year. But I feel like as far as broadcast is concerned, Chris, there's a possibility a silent reporter would just have to wait and see, because we're looking forward to adding some new stuff to the broadcast this year that we weren't able to do in years past.
Definitely. I think that's about it. I don't think I wanted to, there was any other questions I wanted to ask you, but you must be getting excited for the Express. I think their first game is January 14th at Sudbury, and then your first home opener. I'm trying to think when that is. I know when your first game is against Sudbury on the 14th.
It's going to be January 27th, 7 p.m. tip. The home opener to the 10th season. It's going to be tremendous. And again, it's an honor and privilege to be calling these games because I never thought I would make it this far with what I've studied and what I've gathered in my years of experience. Because remember, 8 years ago, matter of fact, Chris, my first broadcast happened pretty much more than 7 years ago. It happened on Boxing Day of 2015, co-hosting the halftime and post-game show with my longtime broadcast partner, Justin Prince. And I didn't think I would make it out of the first year, but once I saw that they wanted us back for the second year and for the third year, I felt like this was an opportunity for me to get better. So I can't believe the years have gone by, the time has gone by, and I'm still with the Windsor Express as their play-by-play announcer. I'm just thrilled to the moon, and hopefully I'm able to stay patient for another month, because I'm looking forward to go back to the WFCU Center. I mean, I'm going there tonight for the Spitfires game, but just going up there in the broadcast booth, it feels so different and it feels so fulfilling knowing that you're able to put these bad boys on and call the game as you see it.
Thoughts on Steve Bell and his time with the Spitfires?
Professional. I produce a handful of Spits games over at AM 800, and he's been nothing but kind to me ever since I started working there at the beginning of the year. He and Manny Pava is pretty much the voice of Windsor Spitfires hockey. That goes without saying. It's Steve Bell Appreciation Night, and a lot of people are wondering, is he retiring? Is that why the night's happening? No, it's not the case. They're honoring his 40-year as the voice for the Windsor Spitfires, albeit a couple of interruptions along the way. And I'll tell you, Chris, that man has a nice head of hair. I look back at one of his old training card photos back in like the late 80s, early 90s. I'm like, man, so that was Steve Bell. And I look at him today, I'm like, that's still Steve Bell. The only difference was the change of scenery from playing in the old barn to the WFCU Center. But he's been nothing but awesome to me, and it's going to be great to see him get his roses tonight. And I'm able to get a good front row seat to watch it tonight.
Yeah,
It's going to be
I would.
fantastic.
I wish I could have come down, but I'm still not 100%, and I'm very cautious when I go out in public if I'm not 100%. So, the Spitfires are in Guelph Friday, so I'm hoping to be feeling well enough to see the Spitfires take on the Storm here Friday in Guelph and to visit with Steve. Because besides being a great broadcaster, he's a very good human being, and a lot of these guys in your profession, Aaron, not just being talented, are good people, and that just shows you even in broadcasting.
Mm.
That's just in sports. It's important to be have good character.
It's because you're an ambassador not only for your team and for your city, but you also want to be an ambassador for yourself. Be natural, be yourself, and trust me, I'm still a puppy in this business we call sports broadcasting, and I still got a lot to learn. But as long as you are ready to learn each and every day, each and every game, you're not going to grow tired of it. You don't want to go in acting like you know everything. Like, for example, it's like we may have the stats, but you don't know how things are going to happen. Or you may be going into your first game thinking, no, I got this. But if you're frozen like a deer in headlights, that's going to be your biggest lesson. And I think with all the accolades and all the games that Steve Bell has done, I'm sure he knows this. And I think he also said this on the morning drive with Mike and Lisa a week ago. He said he's going to keep on having the enthusiasm for the game, and the day he doesn't have that enthusiasm anymore, that's when he will call it quits. But I don't think he's going to be calling it quits for a while.
Well, and somebody else told me that too. The day that you stop having passion for what you're doing is the time for you to move on. As soon as you start losing that passion.
Yes, and I think the reason why we have the passion, for one reason, it's we like the challenge. We like to challenge ourselves either with getting stats or just learning things by ourselves. And I think sports is very unpredictable. You could be on a 3-game winning streak in one week, and then the other week you could lose a handful of games, and then here you are fighting for your lives for a final playoff spot. And that's the beauty thing about sports. I mean, we may live life, but for a lot of people, they say ball is life or hockey is life. They play with their heart on your sleeves, and I could dish out so many sports cliches, but we'd be here forever. But it's just amazing. And plus, to see these players grow up from, let's say, they started as boys or girls, but when they're near the twilight of their career, like they've matured enough to be great men and women of the league and for themselves. I mean, that's the big payoff point. And Chris, I'm telling you, when I used to call the college games over at St. Clair, I was amazed because they were younger than me. It's strange enough that these most of these players, they're younger than me. Now there's a handful that are a little bit older than me, but still, the fact that you could watch them grow up as a freshman and go up to be a senior, and eventually they'll be drafted by either the MLB or the NHL or the NBA. I think that's the big payoff point because you knew them, you knew their story, and somehow, some way, you played a pivotal role in their story by just telling it like it is. It's beautiful. It's just like life. At the end of the day, it's life.
I'm going to put you on the spot here. If you had a choice for an all-star game, let's say that they got an all-star game this year. I believe it's the TBL against the NBL All-Stars. They gave you a choice of doing play-by-play or being the public address announcer. Which one would you choose?
No, I would go play by play regardless because I'm a man that wants to stay consistent. So if I'm the play by play voice for the Express, I would rather be the play by play for the All Star game. And again, there's nothing to knock on the public address announcement because that's what I do on the side too. but it's just a matter of getting those moments. Like, for example, calling a championship game. It's a once in a lifetime opportunity. But if I ever get that opportunity to call an all-star game, you best believe I'm going to be heading right for that headset and going to be giving it my all and give the TBL audience, a taste of the NBLC.
And that's another question I need to ask Oddly when hopefully I can have him on here in the future is has there been a date announced for the All-Star game? Is it going to be in Ontario this year? Is it going to be back in the States? And just stuff like that. There's still things I guess need to find out about the league as well.
Bring it to Windsor. Hint, hint, bring it to Windsor. We love to have the All-Star weekend here if there is one this year. Because think of it, last year it was in Syracuse.
Please.
Let's have it on the Canadian side this time, and let them flip flop each and every year. But Windsor would be a good vote.
Definitely. But I was going to say, Aaron, thank you so much for coming on season 5, episode 12. This is my 232nd episode. And yeah, and I've been glad to have you come on 6 times and talk about the Express and about the league and stuff like that as well. I really appreciate your time in that.
Well, listen, the pleasure is all mine, and I appreciate the opportunity. And thank you for having me on for a 6th time. Hopefully, we could go for a 7th time, and we'll be talking about the halfway point of the NBLC and additional things that come up around on the schedule. But I'll tell you, nobody could top those 236 episodes that you have done so far, and there's no doubt in my mind you're going to hit the big 300, honestly. And the fact that I've been able to have this platform, to talk about my career at this point and all the opportunities that I have done so far, especially with the big league right here, it means a lot. And honestly, I think I've said this the first few times I was on. I didn't think we would be talking about, NBL basketball or calling the Windsor Express games 2 years ago because life was so uncertain at the time. But we're grateful for the opportunities that we have, and we're never ever going to take it for granted after what we've gone through in the last few years. So I thank you for that.
Absolutely agree. Where can my audience find you and follow you on social media again?
All right, here we go. So if you are still on Twitter, if you still have the patience for it, I'm at A Sanders Windsor. I'll be doing some more tweeting as the season progresses, so I'll be back on there. If you follow me on Instagram, that's aaronsanders.frostfather. You'll see me, me in a day, the day in the life of Aaron Sanders. Either on my off days, I'm bowling or just enjoying life, or I'm at the Express game or a Spitz game or doing a Lancer games. You'd be surprised, or maybe post photos of my cat. He's in mourning right now because we just put down the Christmas tree for the year, by the way. And don't be a stranger on Facebook. Aaron Sanders. Don't be a stranger on that. I don't do Snapchat. I don't do TikToks. I only eat them after dinner. But that's besides the point. But that's how the viewers could follow me. And if you do, don't be a stranger. I don't bite.
And you can follow the Express at windsorexpress.ca or the NBL of Canada.ca as well.
Absolutely. And don't forget to follow the NBLC on official NBLC on Instagram. As the season, reaches its start in a couple of weeks, you're going to, I feel like you're going to see a whole lot of announcements, probably a whole lot of signings and a lot more information that you would love to hear about in 2023. The countdown is on.
And check out NBLC TV as well.
Mm-hmm. Don't forget, that's the most important. That is the most important thing, people. NBLC TV to get all of your action.
Definitely. All right, Aaron, I'm going to let you go, but thank you so much for coming on. I hope you and your family have a happy new year, and I'm looking forward to being a part of the NBL, the National Basketball League of Canada, again in 2023.
Well, thank you for the well wishes and all the best to your family too. Rest up that voice because I feel like I'll expect a visit from you during the NBLC season. Look at this, Chris. Before I go, I want to highlight this man right here that just message here, Juan Alejandro Demero. He's the reason why I'm doing this today. He was the director of the live streams for the Express from day one up until 2018. It was because of him I was able to get on the Express broadcast and the Lightning broadcast for the days where we did the Lightning Express as well. I cannot thank him for the opportunity he has given me, JP, Brett Hedges, and Mitch Kobe K to call the games that we love. And this is the guy that was able to do it right here. Without him, there'd be no me in the NBLC. I wouldn't have a voice. And he's an all-around guy, and he just gives. I feel like he's in the GTA region right now working on films, but he has humble beginnings, and it all started the NBLC. We all did. So, Alex, thank you for tuning in. I can't thank you enough. I don't know how in the world I'm going to repay you for the last 7 years in the NBLC, but I greatly appreciate what you've done for me, for my friends, and for my family. You give me faith, and you've given me a career, my friend.
Well, and Aaron, also too, I want to say thank you to you as well, because if I didn't meet you and have you on my podcast and see my work, I wouldn't have ended up being a media affiliate as well. This job, I I ended up because of you, and also doing camera work for the University of Guelph. One of the guys from Rogers TV, Scotty Fraser, referred me to the university. So it helps to. It's sometimes it's not always what you know. It's sometimes who you know as well helps as well. Connections.
Yes. Yes, connections is the key word, and we've been preaching that for the longest time, but it works. It doesn't matter what website you find people or where you find people, just make sure you're there at the right time. Scotty Fraser helped you out. Guelph Vision helped you, or Griff Vision, I should say.
Yeah.
Is it Guelph Vision or Griff Vision?
Griff Vision. Griff Vision.
Okay, then I had it right the first time. And you're doing a whole lot of things too. So pin that one to connections. Never forget that. And never forget humble beginnings either.
Absolutely. And if you can give me about 10, 15 minutes, this podcast will be downloaded to my platforms. I'm now on 19 platforms, including iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, uh, Tuned In, Stitch, and I'm also now live streamed on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter as well. So I've increased my audience to 19 platforms, and I have listeners now in 20 countries across the world.
You're pretty much syndicated, my friend.
I was lucky enough to get a local GM sponsor, Barry Collins Chevrolet, to sponsor my show, and hopefully I will be able to get a few more sponsors as well, and maybe perhaps the NBL of Canada one day might come on board as a sponsor.
Hey, 2023 is just a few days away, and the opportunities are limitless. Let's find out.
Definitely. Again, Aaron, I want to say thank you for coming on, and we'll definitely talk to you before the new year, and we'll definitely look forward to seeing some games. And I'm going to try to come down to Windsor to a game this year. I will try to give you a heads up notice when I can.
I greatly appreciate that. A happy New Year to you, and a happy New Year to your viewers, and just stay safe out there. I wish you all that you wish yourself.
All right. Thank you so much, Aaron. Happy New Year to you and your family, and we'll talk to you soon.
Absolutely. The mug up to you guys. Thank you.
Thanks, Aaron.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye. All right, guys. I hope you enjoyed season 5, episode 12 today with Aaron Sanders, the longtime online voice of the National Basketball League of Canada's Windsor Express, and also a public address announcer for the Windsor Lancers. And he's an inspiring broadcaster out of Windsor, Ontario as well. Also, guys, I'm looking forward to my next podcast show. Next Live with CDP Sports Talk, sponsored by Barry Collins Chevrolet. Friday, December 30th at 2:30 p.m. Eastern with my guest, the Philly sports guy, Jamie Pagli. He is one of the Philadelphia's #1 sports fans. And Jamie is one of the guys who helped me out with my podcast show a couple years ago. And he is going to come on and talk about the 2022 Philadelphia Eagles, talk about the game against Dallas, and also preview the game against the Saints this Sunday at 1 o'clock at Lincoln Financial Phil. So I hope you guys can tune in to season 5, episode 13 of Live with CDP Sports Talk this Friday, December 30th at 2:30 p.m. Eastern with the Philly sports guy, Jamie Pagli. And if you're a Philly sports fan or an Eagles fan, I will send you guys a link where you guys can pop on to our podcast show on Friday at 2:30 and ask the Philly sports guy a question about the Eagles or any other sports team in Philadelphia. Jamie's very passionate about Philly sports and especially about the Philadelphia Eagles as well. Also, guys, just to let you know, I do this with all my podcast shows. Live with CDP Sports Talk is now live streamed on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, LinkedIn. Thank you to everybody on these 5 platforms for tuning into my show today. Again, guys, I'm still not 100%, so I'm sorry. I've had some cough drops in my mouth, and I'm feeling a lot better. But I spent most of Christmas weekend in bed as well. Besides, also, guys, you guys can follow my website, beacons.ai/Chris D. Palme. All my social media work is on there. So all my media sites and my YouTube channel there as well. Live with CDP Sports Talk again is brought to you by Barry Cullen Chevrolet Dealership, 905 Woodlawn Road West in the Guelph Auto Mall. Please check out barrycullen.com for their newest selection of GM vehicles, both new and pre-owned, or give them a call at 519-824-0210 and tell them Chris Palme, aka CDP, sent you as well. You guys can also follow me on TikTok. I'm at Live with CDP on TikTok. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Facebook. I'm pretty well everywhere on social media as well. StreamYard is the official live stream provider of Live with CDP Sports Talk podcast. If you're into podcasting or webinars, StreamYard is the best live stream, in my opinion, to use as well. Live with CDP podcast. The audio version is downloaded to iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Google Podcasts, Anchor FM, Apple Podcasts, Breaker, Pocket Casts, Radio Public, Spotify, Castbox, LinkedIn, Stitcher, Tuned In, and on Podbean as well. And that's about it, guys. I'm going to wrap this up. Again, I want to say thank you to today's guest, Aaron Sanders, the online play-by-play voice of the National Basketball League of Canada's Windsor Express and public address announcer for the Windsor Lancers, for coming on today. And thank you to everybody watching this live stream on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, and LinkedIn, and also later on my audio platforms as well. So in case I don't talk to some of you guys before New Year's, I wish everybody a happy New Year in 2023, and hope you guys can tune in to my next podcast show this Friday at 2:30 Eastern with my guest again, the Philly sports guy, Jamie Pagley. This will be his 4th time on my podcast show, and we're going to talk Philadelphia Eagles football and some Philly sports as well. I am feeling better, guys. I'm just still taking cough syrup and medicine to get to 100%. All right. That's about it, guys. I hope everybody has a great afternoon. And we'll see you guys Friday at 2:30 for another edition of Live with CDP Sports Talk, brought to you by Barry Cullen Chevrolet. Good afternoon, everybody.